Welcome everybody, Shir number 913. We're learning today L'Refuah Shalema Freda Golda Bas Esther, L'Nishmas Moshe Dov Ben Rabban Zisa, L'Nishmas Blima Bas Rav Moshe. Getting back to a malacha of MAKEH B'PATISH. Okay, so we have a few more interesting questions. Shilas came up, or come up. Some more in Yonim, and we want to try and get into the gezeros there. Like we mentioned last time, there are some various different gezeros midrabanim, certain items which cannot be done, certain actions actually, which cannot be done because of the fact that Chazal were afraid, or one of the reasons were for those actions that Chazal were afraid one might come to be over MAKEH B'PATISH. So we'll get to that next. Bezras Hashem. We just want to try and finish off. So one of our Bnei Chabura sent me from one of the websites, that teach or give out on the 39 halachas. They give out various different halachas every week and so on. And it brought down an interesting point, an interesting halach over there, B'Shem the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos and others, in reference to earplugs. Very interesting that many people put in earplugs and to help them sleep better at night, to block out noise, or whatever the case might be. And apparently there's two different types. I'm not that familiar with both of them, but there's two different types of earplugs. There's a sponge type of an earplug, where ear, and then you pull it out, it just pops back to the regular way it is. Then there's a different type where it's like a silicone wax type of a earplug, whereby when you put it into the ear, it actually turns into the shape of the ear. In other words, it's like a piece of silicone or wax, and when you put it into the ear, it becomes to the form of the ear, the inside of the ear. Everybody, each person, a little big, a little smaller, whatever the case is. And an earplug, as we know, wouldn't really work unless it just plugs up the ear. So it has to fit right. It has to be, maneuvered in. So he brings down over there, B'Shem Reb Shlomo Zalman, Shmir Shabbos Hilchos, others, explaining that this type of an earplug is taka problem for various different reasons, and one of them being boina, building, or MAKEH B'PATISH, whatever the case is. But you're now making this piece of silicone, this piece of wax, mamish, into a usable earplug. You stick it in, and it gets formed into the exact shape of the ear. Thereby, it's now usable. It clogs up the ear the way it's a person wants to block out the noise. And that's taka running into a problem of either boina or MAKEH B'PATISH. Also, he brings down over there, it could be running into, depending on the type, it could be running into a problem of memachek, smearing possibly, if it's wax, definitely, and silicone, these type of things. So one has to be aware. It was just, like I mentioned, it was brought to my attention, so I'm just repeating it. It's very important to keep in mind that people do use these earplugs on Shabbos, going to bed or whatever, taking a nap, and they should just if they need it, it's fine just to use the one that's a spongy. You stick it in, it's like a rubbery type thing, and it just pops back up. I know I used to have also. It just pops back up when you take it out, and that is fine. Just not to use the one that forms into a shape from the silicone wax and so on. So an interesting point brings down the Sefer Shabbos Home, quotes it from the Binyan Shabbos, just to read from the Binyan Shabbos. He brings an interesting point that midrabanan, one is not allowed to do an act of strengthening an item so that it doesn't get ruined, to strengthen an item so that it doesn't get ruined, or making it stronger, or so on. So he brings down an interesting case that it's from the Gemara. It's brought down the Shulchan Aruch also, that if somebody has let's say like a kettle, a regular metal kettle, and you poured out the hot water. I'm not getting into the bishul pot, the cooking pot, just to have an understanding. You poured out the hot water, so not to put into it cold water. He brings down that because what's happening is actually the metal, as we know, by heat it expands, and when you put in the cold, it contracts. It becomes like stronger. So he says by doing that, it makes the metal. It makes it actually stronger. When you're putting in the cold water, it gives it a strength that it brings it together, makes it stronger. And Lamaisa brings, he quotes Rashi over there, whatever, that v'asalasis came b'Shabbos b'shum shu misaken kli. Okay, we're not going to get into all the details of how this works right now. This in general we don't deal with because there's issues of bishul over there. Obviously, there's hot, there's cold, or whatever the case is. So we're not even going to. But just the understanding of the metal part, that doing an act like that is taka aser to do. So Just to read a lashon from the from the Sefer Shabbos home, Rabbi Simcha ben Cohen stated that strengthening it, and quoting that Binyan Shabbos also from the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos said that strengthening a damaged article to prevent further damage is also considered a repair, and therefore would taka be usher to do. So in conjunction with that, we have a few interesting things. First of all, we've spoken about in the past, he brings down the example of the wig. There's the spray a shaitel, right? That we said you can't spray hair, can't spraying a shaitel in general with sprays whereby it strengthens the hair or strengthens the shaitel and keeps it in place. Even strengthening, he brings down an article that is not damaged, is prohibited. Therefore, one may not put hairspray. We spoke about these hairsprays on a wig, on a shaitel, to strengthen the hairs and so on, even when the wig is properly shaped. We're not supposed to be using hairsprays, like we said, because of the fact that it strengthens it, and it prevents it from getting worse. Another interesting question, another interesting shaila that comes up in reference to this issue. He brings down from the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos to oil a squeaky door. To somebody who wants to oil the hinges. We mentioned it in the past, but it's in this concept of solidifying items, and that they should become work better, basically, and it's a form of tikkun mana. So he brings down it's taka asa the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos, it's taka asa to oil the hinges of a squeaky door. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Also, he brings down from Shmir Shabbos Hilchos, actually brings down something which we've mentioned in the past also. One may not fix rubber or plastic noise absorbers to the legs of chairs or tables, nor may one detach them. We spoke about those little rubber or plastic pieces to the noise absorbers, or it shouldn't scratch the floor or so on, to the chairs and tables on the bottom on Shabbos. Again, this is all part of the same issue, that the Lamaisa, it's basically strengthening and making the item work better, or it's being usable even better. It's a form of tikkun mana. Another interesting thing he brings down, does the Sefer Shabbos home, the Sefer Shabbos Binyan Shabbos from the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos said that Lamaisa applying nail polish. Nail polish strengthens the hose. If somebody has a cut or a hole or something like that in the hosiery, somebody in the stockings, to put nail polish on, apparently it keeps it a little bit stronger. So one is not supposed to be doing that. Applying nail polish strengthens the hosiery and thereby improves it, thereby making it an act of MAKEH B'PATISH. So the Sefer Shabbos home, he brings that down is practical applications on MAKEH B'PATISH. That's Lamaisa. That's what he says. B'shem the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos, that is taka also to apply nail polish or a similar substance to stockings that have a run in them. They have a run in them in order to prevent the run from spreading further. That's also to do for the same reason that you're strengthening the item, that it shouldn't get worse. So just end off with one more example, which we've spoken about also, but a little bit of a different twitch. We spoke about the shoe trees, those shoe things that keep the shape of the shoe many people put in. So if we said that Lamais, if it's just to keep the shape of the shoe, that is no problem. It's just to keep it like that, so it shouldn't get all bent in and so on. These type of shoe trees, shoe inserts type things when somebody doesn't wear the shoe. But he brings out, we spoke about if somebody wants to reshape the shoe, that you can do just to keep it in the way it is. That's fine. But another thing he brings out from the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos does say for Binyan Shabbos. If you want to like make it wider, stretch it, right? Many times people do that. They want to stretch their shoe. So a lot of times by the shoemaker especially, they'll put in these type of things that, it's like a shoe tree, but a very strong one, and it keeps it stretched for a long time, thereby fixing the shoe, making it better for your feet and so on. So he brings down also that falls under the same category. One has to be careful not to do that on Shabbos. You could have it in from before Shabbos. You don't have to take it out. Once it was in, it was in. But put it in on Shabbos and put it tightly, whereby you want to stretch out the shoe, that one has to be careful not to do on Shabbos. That again, we'll be running into a problem of tikkun mana. Thank you for listening. Atzlach and Baracha Kol Tov.